Jake Morrison stood near the big window of his spaceship. He looked out at the colors in space. Purple and gold clouds drifted slowly in the darkness. His ship was called Horizon's Edge. It was far from Earth. Very far. Nobody from Earth had been to this part of space before. Jake had been the captain of this ship for 3 years. His crew knew their jobs well. They worked together like a family. They explored new places and learned new things every day. But today felt different. Jake could feel something in the air. Something was about to change. The door behind him opened with a soft sound. Claire Bennett walked in. She was his second officer. She always helped him make hard choices. In her hand, she held a small computer pad. Her face looked worried. "Captain, we got a message. It is from the Galactic Coalition Council." Claire held out the pad to him. Jake took the pad and looked at it. The Coalition was a group of alien races. They worked together to keep peace in this part of space. Humans had only met them 18 months ago. The aliens were careful around humans. They watched everything humans did. The reason was simple. Earth was a dangerous planet. The aliens called it a Class 12 death world. This meant Earth was so dangerous that life should not have grown there. But humans lived there anyway. They survived in a place that should have killed them. This made the aliens nervous. "What do they want?" Jake asked. He read the message on the screen. "They want you to come to their main station. Right away. They say it is urgent. They need human help with something." Jake read the whole message carefully. It was short and cold. The Coalition never asked humans for help. They usually tried to stay away from humans. If they were asking for help now, something serious must be happening. "Set our course for Station Meridian." Jake gave the order. "Go as fast as we safely can, and tell the senior officers to meet me in 1 hour. We need to talk about this." Claire nodded and left the room. Jake turned back to the window. He stared at the stars. His mind was already working. He thought about all the reasons the Coalition might want to see him. None of them felt good. 3 days passed before they reached Station Meridian. The station was huge. It floated in space like a small metal moon. Many different alien ships were docked there. The station was built from materials from many planets. Every part of it was designed for different kinds of aliens. Jake and Claire walked through the main area of the station. Everywhere they went, aliens stopped and stared at them. A Vaxorian stood still and watched them pass. Its body was made of crystal and it had many eyes. A group of tall Kelthans moved away from them. The Kelthans looked like giant insects with hard shells. "Does this ever feel normal to you?" Claire asked quietly. She noticed all the stares. "Not really." Jake smiled a little. "But I guess we look just as strange to them." They reached the council chamber. It was a big round room. Seats went up in circles around a center platform. The room was already full of alien representatives. Each species sat in their own section. In the middle of the room stood High Counselor Threxus. Threxus was a Quentari. His body was covered in long robes. His skin glowed with soft light. The Quentari did not speak with mouths. They sent thoughts directly into your mind. The station computer changed these thoughts into words that humans could understand. "Captain Morrison." Threxus spoke without moving. His voice came from everywhere at once. "Thank you for coming so quickly, Counselor." Jake nodded with respect. "Your message said you needed help. What can humanity do for the Coalition?" Threxus waved his hand. Above them, a map appeared in the air. It showed many star systems. Jake could see a red area spreading across the map like spilled paint. "We have a serious problem," Threxus began. "A species called the Dravix has appeared in the outer regions. They are taking over planets by force. They have already conquered 3 independent worlds. Their weapons are strong. Their army is large. We think they will attack Coalition space soon." Jake looked at the hologram carefully. The Dravix territory was growing fast. It looked like they were not planning to stop. "So you want humanity to help you fight them?" Jake asked. "Not exactly," Threxus said. His glowing skin pulsed slowly. "We want you to talk to them. We want you to negotiate." Jake was surprised. That was not what he expected to hear. "Why not send one of your own diplomats?" Another voice spoke. It came from Counselor Verith. He was a Skrell. His body was smooth and wet like a frog. "Because the Dravix only respect strength. They think most Coalition species are weak. They will not listen to us. But humans come from a death world. The Dravix might listen to you." Jake understood now. The Coalition wanted to use humanity's reputation. They wanted the Dravix to be afraid of humans. They thought fear would make the Dravix back down. So you want us to intimidate them, Jake said slowly. You want us to scare them into stopping? Yes. Threxus agreed. We believe that if you speak for the coalition, they will take our warning seriously. You would not need to fight. Just your presence might be enough to stop them. Jake looked at Claire. She looked back at him with doubt in her eyes. He felt the same way. And what happens if they do not back down? What if they call our bluff? Threxus waited before answering. That pause told Jake everything. Then we will have no choice. We will send the coalition fleet to fight them. But that would cost many lives. We hope to avoid war. Jake took a deep breath. This was a game. A political game. The coalition wanted to use Earth's scary reputation without risking their own people. It was smart, but it was also cold. They wanted humans to be their weapon. Jake knew he could not make this decision alone. This was too important. It could affect all of humanity. I need to talk to Earth Command first, Jake said firmly. I cannot agree to this without permission. This is not my choice to make alone. Threxus looked unhappy. His glow dimmed a little. But he nodded. The coalition could not force humans to do anything. Not yet. Earth was still independent. The council knew they had to be careful. Very well, Threxus said. But please hurry. We do not have much time. The Draviks are moving quickly. Jake and Claire left the council chamber. As they walked back to their ship, neither of them spoke for a while. Finally, Claire broke the silence. They are using us, she said quietly. I know, Jake replied. But maybe we can use this situation too. Maybe we can show them that humans are more than just scary fighters from a dangerous world. Maybe we can show them that we think for ourselves. Claire looked at him and smiled. That is why you are the captain. They boarded their ship and prepared to contact Earth. Jake knew that whatever happened next would change how the galaxy saw humanity. He just hoped they would make the right choice. Jake sat alone in his quarters on the horizon's edge. In front of him was a communication screen. The secure link to Earth was active. On the screen, he could see the faces of Earth's most important leaders. They sat in a meeting room back home, millions of miles away. In the center sat Admiral Peter Grant. He was the head of United Earth Space Command. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. Around him sat diplomats, military advisors, and representatives from different Earth governments. They all looked serious. Captain Morrison, Admiral Grant, spoke first. We have read the coalition's request. What do you think about this situation? Jake leaned forward. He had been thinking about his answer for hours. Sir, the coalition wants us to be their threat. They want us to scare the Draviks. They think our reputation as Deathworlders will make the Draviks afraid. But I think this is less about negotiation and more about using us as a weapon. If the Draviks do not back down, we could end up in the middle of a war. And it would not even be our war. The room was quiet for a moment. Everyone was thinking about what Jake said. Dr. Linda Harris spoke next. She was the Secretary for Interstellar Affairs. Do you think the Draviks are really dangerous to the coalition? Yes, Jake answered quickly. They are expanding fast. They have already taken 3 worlds. If they keep going, they will reach coalition space eventually. The question is whether we should get involved now or wait until this becomes our problem too. What do you recommend we do? Admiral Grant asked. He watched Jake closely. Jake paused. He knew his next words would be important. They would shape what Earth did next. I think we should talk to the Draviks, but we should do it our way, not the Coalition's way. The Coalition wants us to be their enforcers, but we should not just follow their orders. If we are going to negotiate with the Draviks, we need to do it independently. We need to understand what the Draviks really want. We need to see if peace is actually possible. You think the Draviks might be reasonable? Dr. Harris sounded doubtful. I do not know yet, Jake admitted. But I think we should find out before we let the Coalition control what we do. Humanity has spent 18 months proving we are not just violent creatures from a dangerous planet. If we want to be respected in the galaxy, we need to show that we can think for ourselves. We need to make our own decisions. Admiral Grant nodded slowly. He seemed to be considering Jake's words carefully. I agree with you, Captain, the Admiral said. We will not be anyone's tool. You are authorized to contact the Draviks, but you will do it under Earth's flag, not the Coalition's flag. Your mission is to learn about the situation. Find out if peace is possible. If it is not possible, come back and tell us. Then we will decide what to do next. Understood, sir, Jake replied, and Captain, Admiral Grant added. His voice became very serious. If the Draviks turn out to be hostile, do not fight them. Your job is to gather information and come home safely. We cannot afford to lose you or your crew, yes, sir. The communication link ended. The screen went dark. Jake sat back in his chair and stared at the blank screen. His orders were clear. He was going to meet the Draviks. But he would do it as a representative of Earth, not as a puppet of the Coalition. A moment later, Claire entered the room. She had been waiting outside during the meeting. What did they say? She asked. We are going to meet the Draviks, Jake told her. But we are doing it our way, not the Coalition's way. Claire nodded. But she looked worried. Is that wise? Going against what the Coalition wants might damage our relationship with them. Maybe. Jake agreed. But if we just do everything they ask without question, we will never be seen as equals. We will always be the scary Deathworlders they call when they need muscle. I would rather take this risk now. We need to establish that humanity acts independently. Claire smiled a little. She admired Jake's principles. Even when they made things difficult, all right then, she said. Let us go meet some Draviks. Jake stood up from his chair. He felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. This mission could change everything for humanity. It could show the galaxy that humans were more than their reputation. Or it could prove the Coalition right about them being dangerous. He walked to the bridge with Claire. The crew was already preparing the ship for the journey. Lieutenant Victor Hayes was at the tactical station. He looked up when Jake entered. Captain, we have the coordinates for Dravik space, Victor said. It will take us 5 days to get there at maximum speed. Good. Set the course, Jake ordered. And keep weapons ready but not active. We are going there to talk, not to fight. But we need to be prepared for anything. The crew worked quickly. Within minutes, the horizon's edge turned toward Dravik's territory. The engines hummed as the ship accelerated. Stars stretched into lines as they entered faster than light travel. Jake stood at his command chair and watched the view screen. 5 days would pass quickly. He needed to prepare. He needed to learn everything he could about the Draviks. He needed to be ready for whatever he would find. Claire came and stood beside him. I have been reading reports about the Draviks, she said quietly. They are warriors. Their whole culture is built around strength and conquest. They do not have much experience with diplomacy. That makes 2 of us, Jake said with a slight smile. Humanity is still learning how to be diplomatic too. Maybe that will help us understand each other, or maybe it will make things worse. Jake shrugged. Either way, we will find out soon. The days passed slowly. The crew used the time to prepare. They studied Dravik's language patterns. They learned about Dravik's customs. They practiced diplomatic protocols. Everyone knew this meeting could be dangerous. Jake spent most of his time in his quarters reading everything he could find about the Draviks. There was not much information available. The Draviks had only recently made contact with other species. Most of that contact had been violent, but Jake noticed something interesting in the reports. The Draviks always offered terms before attacking. They gave their enemies a chance to surrender. That suggested they were not mindless killers. They had rules. They had honor in their own way. Maybe there was hope for negotiation after all. On the 5th day, the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Ahead of them was Dracon Prime, the Draviks' homeworld. It was a massive planet with red and orange clouds. 3 moons circled around it. Space near the planet was filled with ships and stations. Victor spoke from his station. Captain, I count 40 large warships nearby, plus hundreds of smaller craft. Their weapons are active. They are watching us closely. Jake took a deep breath. This was it. The moment of truth. Send them a message, Jake ordered. Tell them we are from Earth. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we want to speak with their leaders. The message was sent. For a long moment, there was only silence. Jake could feel his heart beating faster. What if the Draviks just attacked? What if they refused to talk? Then a response came through. A harsh voice filled the bridge. The translation software worked hard to make the words understandable. Human vessel. We know who you are. Go to Docking Bay 7. Follow the route exactly. If you go anywhere else, we will destroy you. Jake felt relief wash over him. They were being allowed to dock. That was a good sign. Acknowledged, we are here for peaceful talks. Jake replied calmly. The Draviks did not respond again. The ship's computer received coordinates and began guiding them to the docking bay. Claire stood next to Jake watching the screen. Well, she said quietly, Here we go, Jake nodded. Here we go indeed. The Horizon's Edge docked at the Dravik station. Through the airlock window, Jake could see Dravik's soldiers waiting for them. The soldiers wore dark armor. They carried large energy weapons. They stood very still, like statues made of metal and scales. Jake turned to Claire. She would come with him to meet the Dravik's leaders. The rest of the crew would stay on the ship and keep it ready, just in case they needed to leave quickly. Remember, Jake said to Claire, we are here to listen and learn. Stay calm no matter what happens. Claire nodded. She was nervous, but she did not show it. They walked to the airlock together. The airlock opened with a hiss. Jake and Claire stepped onto the Dravik station. The air was warmer than on their ship. It smelled different, like heated metal and something else Jake could not identify. The Dravik's soldiers surrounded them immediately. Up close, Jake could see how big they were. The shortest Dravik's was at least 7 feet tall. Their skin was covered in thick scales that ranged from dark red to black. Their eyes were yellow and sharp. They looked like predators. One of the soldiers gestured with his weapon. Follow. The word came through Jake's translator device. Jake and Claire followed the soldiers through long corridors. The walls of the station were decorated with strange symbols. Some areas had what looked like trophies, pieces of armor, weapons, flags from other worlds. Everything suggested these were warriors who took pride in their victories. Finally, they reached a large hall. The ceiling was high above them. The room was huge. Along the walls were more trophies. Banners hung from the ceiling. At the far end of the hall, sitting on a raised platform, was a Dravik who was clearly their leader. The leader was bigger than the other Draviks. His scales were darker, almost pure black. Scars covered his arms and face. He wore armor that looked ancient and battle-worn. When he stood, he seemed to fill the entire room with his presence. I am Warlord Carveth, the leader said. His voice was deep and rough. So the Coalition sends Deathworlders to negotiate. They must be desperate indeed. Jake stepped forward. He looked directly at Carveth. He did not look away or show fear. That would be a mistake with warriors like these. We are not here for the Coalition. Jake said clearly. We represent Earth. We came to understand your situation. We want to see if conflict can be avoided. Carveth tilted his head. His eyes narrowed with interest. Not the Coalition? That is interesting. Then why do you care what happens in this region of space? Because war is expensive, Jake replied. Because war costs lives. When there is large conflict, everyone suffers, including Earth. We believe it is better to talk first. Carveth laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. You speak as if you have power here. The Coalition is weak. They are divided. They use diplomacy because they lack strength. We are not like them. We take what we need. We do not apologize. Claire spoke up for the first time. What do you need? What are you trying to achieve? Carveth turned his yellow eyes to her. He studied her for a moment before answering. Survival. He said simply, our homeworld is dying. The resources we need are gone. Our people are running out of food, water, minerals. We need new territory. We need new worlds. The Coalition refuses to share. So we take. Jake felt something shift inside him. This changed everything. The Draviks were not evil conquerors. They were a desperate people fighting to survive. The Coalition had not told him this part of the story. Have you tried to negotiate with the Coalition? Jake asked. Have you asked them for help? Carveth's expression turned bitter. We tried. Many times. We sent diplomats. We proposed treaties. We offered trade. They refused every offer. They said we were too aggressive. Too dangerous. They said they could not trust us. They would rather watch us die than give us one planet. One single planet to help us survive. Jake looked at Claire. She looked back at him. They were both thinking the same thing. The Coalition had lied. They had made the Draviks sound like mindless monsters. But the truth was more complicated. The Draviks were fighting for their lives. The Coalition had refused to help. Now the Coalition wanted humans to threaten the Draviks into stopping. It was wrong. Jake could see that now. Let me ask you something, Warlord Carveth, Jake said carefully. If we could find a solution that helps your people survive, would you stop taking worlds by force? Carveth was quiet for a long time. He watched Jake with his sharp yellow eyes. Jake could almost see the thoughts moving behind those eyes. Perhaps, Carveth said finally. But I will not trust the Coalition. They have proven they do not care if we live or die. If you as representatives of Earth want to help us find a solution, I will listen. But understand this, human. If you betray us, if you are just another tool of the Coalition, there will be war. And it will be bloody, Jake nodded. He understood the warning. The Draviks had been betrayed before. They would not accept it again. We will try to be fair. Jake promised. But I need you to do something. I need you to stop your expansion while we work on this. Can you agree to a ceasefire? Carveth growled. It was a low, dangerous sound. Every day we wait, my people suffer. Every day without new resources, more of my people die. You ask much, human, I know, Jake said. But war will kill more of your people. Give me time. Give me a chance to fix this. Carveth stood silent for another long moment. Then he made his decision. 3 months, he said. I will give you 3 months to find a solution. But after that we will do what we must, with or without the Coalition's approval. 3 months, Jake agreed. Thank you, Warlord. Carveth sat back down on his platform. Do not thank me yet. We will see if you can keep your word. Many have made promises to us. None have kept them. I will keep mine, Jake said firmly. The Dravik soldiers led Jake and Claire back to their ship. Neither of them spoke until they were safely inside the airlock. When the door closed behind them, Claire let out a long breath. The Coalition lied to us, she said. They made it sound like the Draviks were monsters. Yes, Jake agreed. They wanted us to be scared of the Draviks. They wanted us to threaten them. But the Draviks are just trying to survive. The Coalition could have helped them. Instead, they turned them away. So what do we do now? Jake walked to the bridge. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. Now, Jake said, we go back to Station Meridian, and we tell the Coalition exactly what they do not want to hear. We tell them the truth. The crew began preparing the ship for departure. Jake stood at the view screen and watched the Dravik station fall away behind them. He had 3 months to prevent a war. 3 months to convince the Coalition to do the right thing. It would not be easy. The Coalition was set in their ways. They saw the Draviks as enemies. They would not want to help them, but Jake had made a promise. And he intended to keep it, even if it meant standing against the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. Claire came and stood beside him at the view screen. This is going to make us very unpopular with the Coalition, she said quietly. Jake smiled grimly. Probably, but being popular is not as important as being right. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. They were heading back to face the Coalition, and this time Jake was ready to say no, loudly. Station Meridian appeared on the view screen as the horizon's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The massive station floated in space like before, but this time Jake felt different about it. He knew what he had to do. He knew it would not be easy. The council chamber was full when Jake arrived. Every species had representatives there. Word had spread that the human captain had returned from Dravik's territory. Everyone wanted to know what happened. The air in the chamber felt tense. High Counselor Threxus stood at the center of the platform. His bioluminescent skin glowed bright with anticipation. He looked pleased, as if he expected good news. Captain Morrison. Threxus greeted him. Welcome back. We are eager to hear your report. Did the Draviks agree to withdraw their forces? Jake walked to the center of the chamber. Claire walked beside him. He looked around at all the alien faces watching him. He took a deep breath. No, Jake said clearly. They did not agree to withdraw, and honestly I do not blame them. Shocked silence filled the chamber. Nobody had expected that answer. Threxus's glow dimmed slightly. His confusion was obvious. Explain yourself, Captain. Threxus said slowly. Jake stood tall. This was the moment he had been preparing for. He knew his next words would change everything. The Draviks are not mindless aggressors. Jake began. Their homeworld is dying. They need resources. They need new territory to feed their people. They came to you, the Coalition, and asked for help. And you refused them. That is not accurate. Counselor Vareth interrupted. The Draviks demanded entire star systems. Their requests were unreasonable. Were they unreasonable? Jake challenged. Or were you just unwilling to make any compromise? You saw them as dangerous. You refused to negotiate in good faith. Now you act surprised when they took matters into their own hands. Threxus's glow flickered. He was clearly agitated. Captain, you were sent to intimidate the Draviks. Your job was to make them submit to Coalition authority. You were supposed to represent our interests. There it was. The truth. The coalition had never wanted negotiation. They had wanted a show of force. They had expected Jake to threaten the Draviks without asking questions. Jake felt anger rise inside him. He let it show in his voice. I was sent to find a peaceful solution. Jake said loudly. I was not sent to be your attack dog. I am not interested in playing the scary Deathworlder just because it is convenient for you. The entire chamber went silent. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. No one had ever talked to the council like this before. Even Claire looked surprised. Threxus's glow intensified. It was a sign of anger. You forget your place, Captain, Threxus said coldly. Humanity is new to this galaxy. You do not have the authority to dictate terms to the coalition. And you do not have the authority to dictate terms to humanity, Jake shot back. His voice was strong and clear. We are not your servants. We are not tools you can use and throw away. If you want our help, you will treat us as equals, not as weapons. The chamber seemed to hold its breath. This was a critical moment. Jake had just challenged the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. He had refused to follow their orders. The consequences could be severe, but Jake stood firm. He did not back down. He met Threxus's glowing eyes without fear. Finally, Threxus stepped down from his platform. He moved slowly. His expression was hard to read very well. Threxus said quietly, What do you propose, Captain? Jake relaxed slightly. The fact that Threxus was willing to listen was a good sign. I propose real negotiations, Jake said. Talk to the Draviks. Find out what they actually need. Work together to meet those needs. Give them territory. Give them resources. Do whatever it takes, but do it fairly. Stop treating them like criminals for trying to survive, and if we refuse? Counselor Vareth asked. What will you do then? Jake looked directly at Vareth. Then Earth will mediate independently. We will help the Draviks ourselves, and we will make it clear to the entire galaxy that the Coalition refused to help a dying species. You will lose credibility. The Draviks will have the moral high ground, and humanity will be seen as more reasonable than you are. It was a bold threat. Jake knew it. But he also knew the Coalition valued their reputation. If humanity publicly sided with the Draviks, it would be a disaster for the Coalition's image. The chamber was silent again. Representatives whispered to each other. Some looked angry. Others looked thoughtful. Everyone was processing what Jake had said. Threxus stood very still. His glow pulsed slowly as he thought. Finally he spoke. We will negotiate, he said. But you will oversee the process, Captain Morrison. You will be responsible for making sure both sides behave. If anything goes wrong, humanity will bear the blame. Jake smiled slightly. It was a backhanded agreement. Threxus was trying to shift responsibility onto humanity, but Jake would accept it. It was better than war, agreed, Jake said. I will oversee the negotiations, and I will make sure they are fair to both sides. Threxus nodded slowly. Very well. We will begin preparations. You have 3 months, Captain. After that, the ceasefire with the Draviks ends. You must find a solution before then. I understand, Jake replied. The meeting ended. The representatives began leaving the chamber. Jake and Claire walked out together. Once they were in the corridor, Claire spoke. That was incredible, she said. You just told off the entire Galactic Coalition. Jake shrugged. Someone had to. They were being unreasonable. Do you think they will actually negotiate in good faith? They will now, Jake said, because they know we are watching. They know we will call them out if they try to cheat. And they know that humanity will not just follow orders anymore. Claire smiled. I think this is the day humanity stopped being seen as just scary Deathworlders. Maybe, Jake said. But we still have a lot of work to do. We need to bring the Coalition and the Draviks together. We need to find a solution that works for everyone, and we only have 3 months. Then we better get started. They walked back to their ship. Jake felt both excited and nervous. He had just changed the course of galactic politics. He had stood up to the Coalition and demanded they do better. Now he had to make sure he could deliver on his promises. Back on Earth, Admiral Grant watched a recording of the Council chamber meeting. When it finished, he sat back in his chair and smiled. Well done, Captain Morrison, Grant said to the empty room. Well done indeed. Earth had just proven something important. Humans were not just fighters. They were not just survivors from a dangerous world. They were independent thinkers. They were leaders. They were willing to stand up for what was right, even against overwhelming power. The galaxy was starting to understand that humanity would not be controlled. And that understanding would change everything. Jake stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and looked at the stars. 3 months to save 2 civilizations from war. 3 months to prove that peace was possible. It was a challenge. But Jake had never backed down from a challenge before. He was not about to start now. The negotiations began 2 weeks after Jake's confrontation with the Coalition Council. They took place on a neutral diplomatic vessel that floated in empty space between Coalition and Dravix territories. The ship was designed specifically for meetings like this. It had rooms for different types of aliens with different needs. Jake served as the main mediator. Claire helped him, along with a team of human diplomats who had traveled from Earth. Their job was to keep both sides talking, to prevent arguments from turning into violence, to find common ground where none seemed to exist. The first week was difficult, very difficult. The Coalition representatives did not trust the Dravix. The Dravix did not trust the Coalition. Both sides spent most of their time accusing each other of past wrongs. Jake spent hours listening to complaints and grievances that went back years. But slowly, things began to change. Jake made both sides focus on the future instead of the past. He made them talk about solutions instead of problems. He refused to let either side walk away from the table. During one particularly heated session, Counselor Vareth stood up and pointed at Warlord Carveth. "Your people have killed thousands," Vareth said angrily. "You have destroyed cities. You have taken worlds that did not belong to you. And now you expect us to reward you with more territory?" Carveth stood as well. His yellow eyes blazed with anger. "Your people watched us starve. You had the resources to help. You had the territory, but you refused. You let our children go hungry because you were afraid of us. Do not speak to me of morality when you have none." Jake slammed his hand on the table. The loud sound made everyone stop and look at him. "Enough," Jake said firmly. "Both of you sit down." Right now, surprisingly, both Varath and Carveth sat. There was something about Jake's tone that commanded respect. Maybe it was because he was a Deathworlder, or maybe it was because he was the only one in the room who had no personal stake in this conflict. Jake looked at both of them. "We are not here to assign blame. We are here to prevent more death. Both of your peoples will suffer if this turns into a war. You know this, so stop acting like children and start acting like leaders." Vareth looked offended. Carveth looked surprised. But neither of them argued. Now, Jake continued. "The Dravix need resources. The Coalition has resources. That is a fact. The question is how we distribute those resources fairly. Counselor Vareth, your people control hundreds of star systems. Surely you can spare a few for a species that is dying." Varath started to object, but Jake held up his hand. "And Warlord Carveth, your people cannot just take whatever they want. If the Coalition gives you territory, you must agree to stop all military expansion. You must open trade relations. You must become a peaceful member of this galactic community." Carveth growled softly, but he nodded fine. Carveth said, "If they give us what we need to survive, we will stop taking worlds by force. But the territory must be adequate. We need planets that can support our population. Not worthless rocks in empty space." Jake turned to Vareth. "Can you agree to that?" Varath was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "If the Dravix agree to a permanent ceasefire and open trade, we can allocate 3 uninhabited star systems. They are resource-rich and suitable for colonization. But this is contingent on the Dravix proving they can be trusted." It was progress. Real progress. Jake felt relief wash over him. "That is a good start," Jake said. "Now let us work out the details." The weeks that followed were intense. Both sides argued over every detail. Which star systems exactly? What the trade agreements would include? How to verify that the Dravix were keeping their promises? How to ensure the Coalition did not later take back what they had given? Claire worked tirelessly alongside Jake. She helped draft agreements. She mediated smaller disputes. She kept everyone focused on the goal. Sometimes late at night when everyone else was asleep, Jake and Claire would sit together and talk. "Do you think this will actually work?" Claire asked one night. She sounded tired. "I hope so," Jake replied. "Both sides want peace. They just needed someone to help them find it. What if we fail? Then there will be war, and millions will die," Jake said quietly. But I do not think we will fail. I think both sides have seen enough death. They are ready for something different. Finally, after 2.5 months of negotiations, an agreement was reached. The coalition would give the Draviks 3 star systems. These systems had multiple habitable planets and were rich in resources. In return, the Draviks would immediately cease all military expansion. They would withdraw from one of the worlds they had recently conquered as a sign of good faith. They would establish trade relations with coalition species. Most importantly, both sides agreed to a formal treaty. If disputes arose in the future, they would bring them to a neutral mediator instead of resorting to violence. On the last day of negotiations, Warlord Carveth approached Jake privately. They stood in one of the ship's observation rooms, looking out at the stars. "You kept your word, human," Carveth said. His voice was respectful. "You did not let the coalition manipulate you. You treated us fairly. For that, you have my gratitude and the gratitude of all Dravik's people." Jake nodded. It was the right thing to do. "I hope this is just the beginning. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, but only if we are willing to listen to each other." Carveth made a sound that might have been agreement. "Perhaps. Time will tell. But know this. If humanity ever needs allies, the Draviks will remember what you did here." Jake smiled. "That means a lot. Thank you, Warlord." Later that day, High Counselor Threxus met with Jake one final time before the human captain departed. They met in a private chamber away from the other representatives. "Captain Morrison," Threxus said. His glow was steady and bright. "You have done well. The coalition owes you a debt of gratitude. You prevented a war that would have cost countless lives." Jake smiled slightly. "Just remember this the next time you think about using humanity as a tool. We are your partners, not your weapons. Treat us with respect and we will do the same." Threxus bowed his head slightly. It was a gesture of acknowledgement. "Understood, Captain. I believe the coalition has learned an important lesson from this experience. Humanity is more than we initially believed. You are thinkers, leaders, diplomats, not just survivors from a dangerous world." Jake nodded. "That is all we ever wanted. To be seen for who we truly are." As Jake and Claire walked back to the horizon's edge for the last time, Claire looked at Jake with admiration. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it. You stopped a war, we did it," Jake corrected. "This was not just me. It was all of us. The crew. Earth Command. Every human who believed we could be more than just scary Deathworlders." Claire smiled. "So what happens now?" "Now," Jake said, "we go home. We report our success, and then we get back to exploring. There is still so much of the galaxy to see." They boarded their ship and prepared for departure. As the horizon's edge left the diplomatic vessel behind, Jake felt a sense of accomplishment, but also a sense of responsibility. Humanity had proven itself capable of leadership. That meant the galaxy would be watching them even more closely now. But Jake was not worried. He knew his species. Humans were adaptable. They were creative. They were stubborn. And most importantly, they were willing to stand up for what was right even when it was difficult. The day the Deathworlder said no loudly had changed everything, and the galaxy was better for it. 6 months had passed since the treaty between the Coalition and the Draviks was signed. The horizon's edge was back in deep space doing what it did best: exploring, discovering, learning. Jake stood at the observation window, just like he had done so many times before. But things felt different now. Humanity's place in the galaxy had changed. They were no longer just the newcomers from a dangerous world. They were respected. They were trusted. They were seen as leaders. Claire entered the observation room and stood beside him. She held 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Jake. "Thanks," Jake said, taking the cup. He took a sip and smiled. "Still cannot believe they make decent coffee out here in the middle of nowhere." Claire laughed. "One of the benefits of having a good ship." She looked out at the stars. "Have you heard the latest news from Earth?" Jake nodded. "Admiral Grant sent me a message this morning. Apparently, 3 more alien species have requested Earth mediation for their disputes, and the Coalition has formally invited humanity to join as full members. That is incredible. What did Earth Command say?" "They are considering it carefully," Jake replied. "Joining the Coalition comes with responsibilities, but it also comes with opportunities. We would have a voice in galactic politics. We could help shape the future. Do you think we should join? Jake thought about it for a moment. I think we should, but only if we can join as equals, only if our voice matters. We proved that humans can think for themselves. We proved we can lead. The coalition needs to remember that. Claire nodded in agreement. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars drift past. A communication alert sounded. Victor's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we are receiving a message. It is from the Draviks. Warlord Carveth wants to speak with you. Jake raised his eyebrows in surprise. Put him through to my ready room. I will take it there. Jake and Claire walked to his private office. The communication screen activated and Carveth's face appeared. The Draviks warlord looked different somehow. Less angry, more at peace, Captain Morrison. Carveth greeted. I hope I am not interrupting. Not at all, warlord, Jake replied. It is good to see you. How are your people? Carveth's expression softened slightly. They are thriving. The territory the coalition gave us has been more than adequate. We have established colonies on 4 planets. Our people have food, water, resources. For the first time in a generation, our children do not go hungry. We owe this to you. Jake felt warmth in his chest. This was what it had all been for. This moment right here, I am glad to hear it. But you do not owe me anything. You and your people deserved a chance to survive. I just helped make that happen. Carveth made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are too modest, human. But I did not call just to thank you. I called to tell you something important. Trade with coalition species has begun. It is going well. Some of them were hesitant at first. They still saw us as dangerous. But we have shown them we can be trusted. And do you know what changed their minds? What they saw that humanity trusted us. They saw that the Deathworlders from Earth believed we were worth saving. If you could give us a chance, they thought, then maybe they could too. Jake smiled. That means a lot, Warlord. I hope our peoples can continue to work together in the future. You have my word on that, Carveth replied. If Earth ever needs assistance, the Draviks will answer. We do not forget our debts. The communication ended. Jake sat back in his chair and let out a long breath. Claire was smiling. That was nice, she said. It is good to know we actually made a difference, yeah. Jake agreed. It really is. Later that week, Jake received another message. This one was from High Counselor Threxus. The message was formal but warm. Threxus wanted to personally invite Jake to attend the next council summit. Not as an observer, not as a mediator, but as a full representative of Earth. The message also included something else. An official commendation from the coalition. Jake had been awarded the Star of Unity, the highest civilian honor the coalition could give. It was awarded to individuals who had made exceptional contributions to galactic peace. Jake showed the message to his crew during their daily briefing. Everyone cheered. Victor clapped him on the back. Claire beamed with pride. You deserve it, Captain, Victor said. You saved millions of lives. Maybe billions, we all did, Jake corrected. This crew supported me every step of the way. This honor belongs to all of us. That night, Jake returned to the observation window. It had become his thinking spot, his place to reflect on everything that had happened. He thought about the journey, about how far humanity had come. 18 months ago, they were just newcomers, scary Deathworlders that everyone avoided. Now they were trusted partners, leaders, peacemakers. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. Humanity still had so much to learn, so much to discover. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and dangers. There would be more challenges ahead, more difficult decisions, more moments when humanity would have to choose between the easy path and the right path. But Jake was not worried. He had faith in his species. Humans were survivors. They had lived on a planet that should have killed them. They had thrived in impossible conditions. They had learned to work together despite their differences, and now they had proven they could do more than just survive. They could lead, they could inspire, they could change the galaxy for the better. Claire joined him at the window. She did not say anything. She just stood there beside him looking at the stars. Finally, Jake spoke. You know what the best part of all this is? What? We showed them that being from a death world does not make us monsters. It makes us strong. It makes us resilient. But it also makes us compassionate. Because we know what it is like to struggle. We know what it is like to fight for survival. That is why we could understand the Draviks. That is why we could help them. Claire nodded thoughtfully. So our greatest strength is not our toughness. It is our empathy, exactly. Jake smiled. The galaxy thought Deathworlders would be dangerous, and maybe we are when we need to be. But we are also capable of great kindness, great wisdom, great courage, not the courage to fight, the courage to say no when everyone expects us to say yes, the courage to stand up for what is right even when it is hard. The day you said no to the coalition, Claire said quietly. That was the day everything changed. Jake thought about that day in the council chamber, when he had refused to be their weapon, when he had demanded they do better. It had been scary. He could have ruined everything. He could have made humanity into enemies of the coalition. But he had taken the risk. Because some things were more important than being liked. Some things were more important than following orders. Yeah, Jake agreed. That was the day we stopped being tools and started being partners. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the endless expanse of space. The horizon's edge continued its journey through the stars. There were more worlds to explore, more people to meet, more problems to solve, but Jake was ready. His crew was ready. Humanity was ready because they had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not to fight. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to say no. Loudly, clearly, without apology. And when you do that, when you stand up for what is right, you can change the entire galaxy. The day the Deathworlder said no loudly had become a turning point in galactic history. It was the day humanity proved they were more than their reputation, more than their origin, more than anyone expected. It was the day they became who they truly were. Leaders, peacemakers, heroes, and the galaxy would never be the same.